Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to another DM's Guild review, my written and video review series. Take a look at the adventures and supplemental material at the Dungeon Masters Guild website. This video will be reviewing the group patron supplement Palms Passing Parcel and Logistics Guild, designed by Ryan Hennessy for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. A review copy has been provided for the purposes of this review. If you enjoy my videos, consider using my affiliate links for your online shopping and supporting me via patreon.com/roguewatson. So recently, we had done a DM roundtable talking about group patrons, which is something that was first introduced, at least in 5th edition, with the Eberron book, and then later in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And group patrons are a fun and interesting way of binding your party together via a single faction that they generally the entire party works through. Now, you could technically have different party members working for different factions. Maybe they've got their own personal quests, but essentially it's a faction that they're already connected to, they belong to, or you know, you can even think of like the Harpers and the Zentarum as being these group patrons as well. But more importantly, they can also advance in ranks and actually maybe get some rewards for being a part of that faction. So that's all part of being a group patron, and I haven't seen a whole lot of that used in the DM's Guild in terms of here's a custom patron or here's one that's already written. Obviously, a big exception to that is the Zentarum huge product that I reviewed earlier this year that was absolutely incredible and focused specifically on the Zentarum faction. Palms, Passing, Parcel, and it's a mouthful of a title. It's honestly, it's a little long for a faction, but that's what it is. It is a group patron that is a delivery service. The party or a single party member could join this delivery service, which makes delivers packages all over Faerun. And you may be wondering, well, how is that? You know, it doesn't sound like a D&D thing or a fantasy thing. And I would argue, is not the Lord of the Rings just one big delivery quest? It's like the main quest is to deliver this item to the volcano, I guess, to Mount Doom. So not actually a recipient, but the idea being you are gaining quests from your faction, and they are sending you off on these missions. So it's a perfect solution for a group patron, because you've got a wealth of quests you can do. They could take you literally anywhere and involve basically anything. And thankfully, this supplement, which is, I believe, over 20 pages, includes adventure hooks at the end, sample ideas that you can use to draw your couriers to either far-flung exotic places or have fun in like a big city. And in fact, the advancement for the couriers through the ranks actually has a branching point at the very end, where after they make it through the kind of low and mid-tier ranks, the final ranking is you're either really good at getting around a city and delivering things around there, or you're good at delivering packages across like miles of like dangerous terrain. So it's kind of like the ranger versus the rogue almost when I think of character archetypes. Like, are you better at exploring and getting around and sneaking in an urban environment with people around, or doing all that in a wilderness environment, which means I think Rangers and Rogues get a lot of good use out of this faction, but really anybody could do it. Frankly, this is a really good product because it just does a great job of checking the box of all the things, most of the things that I want from a group patron. So we've got a few pages of history and background information to what this guild is. It was founded by a halfling who was just really good at getting around and delivering packages and stuff. And when he passed, the control of the guild went to a board of directors, and everything just runs pretty fine. There's not like any drama or anything mysterious or crazy happening here. It's just, I guess the surprising thing is that it's a legitimate delivery service. There's no, demon involved or any kind of crazy cult shenanigans or anything weird going on. This is just a legitimate delivery service. Now, it is not good aligned nor evil aligned. It's very neutral, which means they will, as long as the person pays, then they will absolutely deliver the goods. Like, that's just the only thing. And sometimes they have to do it clandestinely, and, maybe the products they're shipping aren't of the most legal sense. There's a little bit of gray area between, are they really smugglers or not? But they essentially will take the job, and they've got a whole system of like you can take chits, and those chits will act as your delivery payment, as well as giving you prestige depending on how difficult of a job you did. You can see here that tables will scale with, was it something that is illegal? Was it having to deliver a person versus, there's that classic twist of every game does this too, where it's like, I need to deliver a package, and you open the trunk and there's like a person in there or a child or something. Oh, that's a twist. That will give you more prestige than a normal one. So it's a fun little system, and you've got ranks, which is, of course, the biggest thing for really expanding on these factions or group patrons, which is give a sense of progression for your player. Your player can start off as a lowly neophyte, which in this case is the Paisley Page Boy, and then ascend into the ranks via all those prestige for completing all these deliveries, as well as just earning money along the way. And while you're doing that, the main reward you get is, besides, of course, you get paid, are these tools of the trade, which is a really cool system. These aren't automatically given to you. Instead, you do have to purchase them, and they are frankly very expensive, which I have mixed feelings about, because I feel like there should be a reward for just, being with the company for that long, I guess. A little trophy that, or a pin. But in this case, it's D&D. Give them something that they can use. Instead, you can purchase things, but are limited by your rank of how far you've progressed in the actual faction. And there's some really cool items in here that a lot of rogues especially would probably salivate over. The arrow driver pittons are basically a grappling hook that can be combined with the clam harness to kind of give yourself whatever that devices you can use to like rappel down. You could use that to like ascend. I mean, thieves would just go crazy over this. There's a special spyglass called the Egghead Monocular. There is a Ghillie Morph Cloak, which basically gives you permanent pass without trace, and true Nightshade Goggles, which give you 200 feet of dark vision. These are very powerful items, but as you can see, they're also worth thousands of gold pieces, which is a lot. Now, you're completing all these missions because you're making money. So maybe if you've got some extra money, you can then turn around and use that to buy some really powerful, cool items, none of which are necessarily combat items, which is really neat, because a lot of times if you see magic items, 80% of the time they're going to be some kind of combat use, because D&D is still primarily a combat simulator with role-playing on top. And I appreciate that this actually gives you over a dozen, I believe, or sorry, over 10. I think it's exactly 11, not quite a dozen. Of these really cool advanced utilities that could be very effective for like maybe in tier 2 to tier 3. You deserve something better than a rope, but maybe you don't necessarily want to use something that's just a straight up magical, animated rope or something, but give you just a very cool, well-made, like Batman-esque tool almost at this point. So it's a neat idea. It's a neat reward. I probably would have liked to see maybe some kind of actual reward given to players for advancing in the ranks, rather than just the ability to buy, to spend a lot of your money on these items. But they are very cool items, and I appreciate that they're just some neat ideas, and they're very obviously thematically tied to getting around, specifically in the city environment. But in the case of the Ghillie Morph Cloak, certainly you can use that in the wilderness too. We're also given several D10 tables for environmental traps and hazards. Now, these are very few of them are combat encounters, which is nice. But it almost seems like they should be combined with potential combat encounters, because several of them are like, you're blinded by the white snow for, a certain amount of rounds or something. It's like, why does that matter if that's the only thing happening? Okay, like you could be blinded, but that doesn't technically have any effect unless you're going to be in combat or there's some kind of danger coming at you. So I think some of these should probably be maybe combined with another combat encounter, like you're on, you slip on some ice or something. They are 4 of them, D10 tables for different terrain. So obviously this is primarily used if you're doing the one where you're going across, exotic lands. Too bad we didn't get one for like urban table, because I think that would have been really helpful. And a lot of these deliveries take place within a city. It's delivering from one location to another. And as I mentioned, one of the top tier, let's see, of the choices you can get to, which I cannot pronounce this, but the channelers and the Damask deliverers. The channelers are the urban ones, and then the deliverers are the wilderness ones. So the fact that we get, half of the top tier ranking for this whole guild is just in the city, but we didn't actually get any of the cool like hazards and traps tables for the city. Is a bit of an oversight there, but it's nice to have, and they're not just combat encounters. These are all interesting things to do with, like, you know, you get disadvantage on perception because the wind's whipping your face, or there's quicksand somewhere and you have to get around that. You know, it's just kind of a little bit of complications that don't involve creatures, which I think is really nice to have. And then finally, we get adventure hooks. These ones have over a dozen adventure hooks, all the way from the lowest, the Paisley Page Boys, all the way up to the highest ranking. And I do appreciate some of the titles because they're all fun little puns and references. Uncut Gems, Sea of Swords, Biscuit, Sleepless in Revel's End, Fear is the Mind Killer, Master and Courier. Flatten the Curve, by the way, is maybe a little too recent, but you are delivering, basically, you're infiltrating a hospital to get vaccines to give to the people because they are suffering from a plague in Waterdeep. Other ones include delivering possibly illicit packages and letters to prisoners at Revel's End, which is located in Icewind Dale. Traveling across the Anarok Desert to deliver supplies to a Dragonborn tribe in exchange for powerful artifacts and weapons that they've found, as well as rescuing captured couriers and their stolen cargo from a pirate crew near the Mare of Dead Men. It's just a lot of really cool ideas and concepts. This could be, again, for the whole party. You could be given this for your group patrons, or if you want to just have one person in your party who was like, what if my character concept was I was just a, you know, fantasy version of a delivery person, and I worked for this faction in addition to working for, you know, helping the party out. And in theory, I could then pick up work of wherever we're going next. I could pick up a package, and then that could have some cool, you know, complications with it that everybody has to deal with, but it's still part of my, you know, personal quest. This absolutely works for all of that. I think it's just a really good idea for a group faction because it works very easily that way, in terms of there's always, and it even mentioned the fact this place is all over the place. There's always packages that need to be delivered, you know, come rain or shine, whatever the mottos are you want to think of. And it fits pretty well. I think it's a fun idea. About half of these adventure hooks fit specifically in Icewind Dale: Rime of the Frostbane, which makes me feel like the designer just released it around the time that was either announced or released. Some of them maybe for Dragon Heist, another one for like Lost Mine of Phandalin. A few of them are just kind of wherever, like the pirate captain one just happens to take place around either Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter Nights area. But a lot of them specifically have to do with like climbing, you know, mountains in the snow and to deliver potions to an old man, or like I said, the Revel's End. One of them is specifically tied to Goodmead Town. You're another person. Bryn Shander is trying to come up with a recipe for better beer, and you have to help deliver his goods. But there's, you know, the rival crew is coming in to try to sabotage it, and you're the delivery person caught in the middle. Just really fun adventure ideas and hooks, and I think they add a lot to it, and is exactly what I want to see from group patron supplements. Again, we've got that checklist of, you've got the advancement ranks, you've got some cool adventure hooks, you've got some rewards with the items. One thing that we're really lacking in, however, is NPCs. Not even a table. Instead, the only thing we're given in terms of who are the NPCs that you're working with is that they're the board of directors. Each one of them is kind of the like steward of that ranking of progression. So like you've got the director will be of the Ogre Outgoers, and then there's another director who's kind of in charge of the Paisley Page Boys. So every like advancement rank has a different, but we don't know anything about them other than the name. And there seems to be just kind of some missing information there, that whenever you make the, you know, history section or something, give me the big NPCs that I should know about. Granted, this one is a more decentralized organization. It's not like there's a whole boss structure here, but there is a board of directors, so it'd be nice to have to know that board and in terms of the higher ups. But more importantly, give me some example NPCs, maybe some example couriers that you run out to in the field, or some example quest givers that could help you maybe in some of the major towns, who would be the ones that would be giving you these parcels and these quests that you'd be working through, you know, but the go-between. So in other words, who are the people that are actually giving you these quests? These aren't just all, you know, letters you're receiving with instructions, I would assume, that you have to then like eat or something. So it just seems like a little bit of an oversight there. And then my other complaint would be very teeny tiny text. I've seen this before in a couple different products, and it always irks me, but if I ever have to zoom in from the default, which I think is 78%, so I can fit this 2-page view very nicely on the screen and just have one, you know, click of the mouse wheel go through it. If I have to zoom in to actually read things, that's too small. maybe I'm getting old and and decrepit, but this is really teeny tiny text, and there's never any real reason for it. Just blow that shit up, make it a little bit better, easier to read. I like the formatting, I like the editing. Nothing is out of place. There's some art, not a lot of art, but what's there I think is effectively thematic to delivery. I don't think there's any actual like D&D art in here. It's just pictures of packages and people like delivering products on different creatures and environments. So I think that looks good. It's just the text is just a little too small and it's annoying. When I actually had to read this, I had to zoom in, and that annoyed the crap out of me. All right, let's go over my pros and cons for Palms, Passing Parcel, and Logistics Guild. I still don't like that title. It's just a little too much. Too much alliteration. Pro, Palms Passing is presented as a full-fledged group patron with multiple ranks to advance through, which is probably the most important aspect of any group patron, is allow people to advance through by completing missions. They get a sense of progression that's decoupled from their actual character leveling progression. It's just, here's your progression with this faction. And this one does a good job of that. I think all the different descriptions and like what you're expected to do and what your respect level is done very well for all these different rankings. Even though the rewards aren't technically tied to the rankings, instead they just unlock the ability to buy the new gear. But I will put as a pro that gear is really good. It's over 10 advanced tools for travel, concealment, and infiltration. Just some really neat ideas for some really high quality Batman-esque gear and tools that you can use, none of which is combat related, but they all give you some really crazy cool abilities for a very expensive cost. So this is some potentially scaling to some high level. But again, player characters kind of make a lot of money anyway. They're just lousy with gold. So I'm not necessarily opposed to having this shit cost a lot of money. But in my games, there would probably be a lot bigger discount, especially if people are really doing a good job of completing the quests. That would be more of a reward with probably some payment required. Pro, 4 D10 tables of environmental hazards and traps. I do like these tables. I wish we had an urban one as well, because it seems like that'd be a big part of the job. But they're nice tables that kind of add a lot of just good little hazards and traps and environmental features and just enough little complications for traveling overland. And pro, over a dozen adventure hooks from aspiring to veteran couriers. I kind of went through them earlier, but there's a lot of really fun ideas and adventure hooks that you can use, namely for wilderness, but there are some urban ones as well that give you a good idea of what kind of tasks players could get and how you could fully utilize this kind of guild in your D&D campaign. Cons, no info on guilds NPCs. The only thing we get are those like one sentence mention of the board of directors for each one. One of them was like, they rumored to have utilized Sigil, the city of doors, to get across the many different planes and has been missing since roughly 1489 DR. That's the only thing we know, and that's like, that sounds really interesting. Tell me more. But there's no information on any of these NPCs, or again, sample couriers, or just something to where you would put more of a face on this organization, because ultimately that's what D&D is you're just talking to people. So a bit of a bummer there. And then I did put as a con the teeny tiny font, because that irritated me too much. Sometimes I don't put it on there if there's enough art or if it's not that small, but this one just felt like it was really, really tiny to where I had to sit there and zoom in just to get just to be able to read it, which is just dumb. Final verdict, Palms, Passing Parcel, and Logistics Guild is a prime implementation of a group patron with advancement ranks, custom gear, and interesting adventure hooks. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com. You can watch more reviews and follow our own D&D adventures here on my YouTube channel. You can support my work at patreon.com/roguewatson. Shoutouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Tiny Dancer, Manuel, Wizard, Princess, Christopher, Star, Loverly, Thomas, Ian, Captain Mike, Jeremy, Adam, Leroy, Goblinworks, and Aiden. And gold patrons, RPG Papercrafts, Charming Grenade, Pretty Boy, Numa, Marcos, Dade Vicente, Gilberto, Dead Lizard, Lounge, Sam, Ross, Lumpy Spuds, Jerome, Fatboy 619, Scully Nick, Farty McButterpants, Blood Angel, Veronis, The Fireworks Factory, Baboon, Sean, A.K.A. Cert2B, and Nathan. Thank you all very much for your support.